Have you ever wondered what exactly separates good performers from the absolute all-time greats? Today, we are diving deep into the exact psychological forces that drive champions. Why do some people completely burn out, while others, well, they just seem to have this endless, glowing fire inside them? We're going to break down the actual science of motivation, stripping it all the way down to its core.
So I want you to imagine two athletes training side by side. One trains because they love the game. The other trains for medals, fame, and money. Both work hard, but who is more likely to succeed in the long run? Think about that for a second. On the surface, they look literally identical. They both wake up at 5 a.m., they both sweat, they both sacrifice, and they both push their bodies to the absolute limit. But the fuel they are putting into their mental engines is completely different. And as we're going to see, the type of fuel you use determines exactly how far your engine can go before it finally breaks down.
Section 1. The two types of athletes. To truly answer that question, sports psychology divides our behavioral drivers into two main categories.
There is a pretty stark contrast between these two drives, as you can see here. On the left side, we have intrinsic motivation. This is driven by curiosity, enjoyment, and a deep desire for personal growth. Think of someone like Lionel Messi. When you watch him play, it often looks like he's just a kid in a park having the absolute time of his life, right? He plays for the sheer joy of having the ball at his feet. On the right side, we have extrinsic motivation, driven by medals, money, and recognition. But let's bring this into your daily life, because this isn't just about elite athletes. On the intrinsic side, it's the student who reads way beyond the syllabus simply because the subject is fascinating. On the extrinsic side, it's the professional grinding out 80-hour weeks strictly to secure a promotion or a fat year-end bonus. Both get you moving, but they feel very, very different.
Let's formally define this first one. Intrinsic motivation means participating in an activity because the activity itself is enjoyable, satisfying, and personally meaningful. The greatest reward isn't handed to you on a podium. The reward is the action itself. Take Virat Kohli, for example. Yes, he has broken countless records, but if you listen to him talk about cricket, he talks about the process, the meticulous, obsessive nature of his net sessions, the pure satisfaction of the sound of the ball hitting the sweet spot of the bat. He loves the learning. He loves the constant improvement.
And honestly, this is a superpower. Athletes driven by curiosity, personal growth, and satisfaction continue practicing even without trophies or applause. Ask yourself this: what keeps you going when nobody is watching? When the stadiums are totally empty, when the cameras are off, when there is no grade, no bonus, and absolutely no external validation? Intrinsically motivated people have a deep internal well of satisfaction. Because the process itself brings them happiness, they can remain committed for years, even decades. They're basically playing an infinite game with themselves.
Section 2. The extrinsic motivation trap. But we have to ask the flip side of this. What happens when the driving force comes purely from the outside? This brings us to extrinsic motivation. This is participation driven by external rewards or pressures. Things like prize money, medals, or social recognition. You might be training to impress your family, earn a scholarship, or maybe just to avoid criticism. Now, I want to be perfectly clear here. Extrinsic motivation is not inherently a bad thing. External rewards are fantastic tools, especially for young learners. When a child first starts a sport, it's often the promise of a shiny medal or a high five from a coach that gets them onto the field in the first place. These rewards help establish a baseline routine.
Let's look at this table together, because it brilliantly illustrates the double-edged sword of external rewards. The benefits are real. Extrinsic rewards encourage effort, they establish healthy habits early on, and they reinforce desirable behaviors. If you are a student preparing for really tough exams, the extrinsic reward of a great college placement can absolutely force you out of bed to study. It works. But there are severe risks. If you rely solely on these external factors, what happens when you fail? What happens when you study your absolute heart out and still get a bad grade? Your motivation plummets. When your entire self-worth is tied to an outcome you can't entirely control, it leads to massive increases in stress and anxiety and ultimately a much higher risk of burnout. When the applause stops, the extrinsically driven performer often simply stops running.
Because of this, sports psychologists encourage athletes, and really all of us, to ask this ultimate revealing question. Would I still play this sport if there were no medals, no money, and no audience? It's a heavy question, isn't it? If you are a professional, would you still study your field if nobody gave you a title for it? If you are a creator, would you still make things if there were absolutely no likes or views? The honest answer to this question reveals your true baseline of motivation.
Section 3. Combining forces for success. Now you might be thinking, okay, so I should just ignore all rewards, reject all money, and live in a cave mastering my craft. Not at all.
What we are looking at here is the secret formula of world-class champions. Notice that the massive underlying foundation is intrinsic motivation. This forms the bedrock. It's the unshakable foundation for long-term commitment and resilience. But then look at the smaller slice, extrinsic motivation. It's there, it's important, but it serves a very specific purpose. It provides direction and focus. You need the passion to do the work every single day, but you need the goal, the gold medal, the promotion, the championship, to give your passion a specific target to aim at.
When you have that massive intrinsic foundation in place, it leads to greater persistence, creativity, emotional well-being, and resilience. Think of an athlete like PV Sindhu. In badminton, the physical and mental toll of a grueling rally is just immense. If you lose a heartbreaking final, an entirely extrinsically motivated player might completely shatter under the disappointment. But someone with a strong intrinsic drive, their satisfaction comes from the learning. They review the tape, they analyze their footwork, they focus on mastering their technique. Because they love the sport, a failure is literally just data for them to get better, allowing them to bounce back with incredible resilience.
Section 4, Cultivating Your Inner Champion. So, how do we actually build this balanced, champion-level mindset in our own lives, in our workplaces, and, importantly, in the next generation?
Here is the blueprint for fostering healthy motivation, whether you are a coach, a parent, a manager, or just trying to improve yourself. We must encourage effort and curiosity. We have to praise hard work over the final outcome. If you are a parent, this means celebrating the fact that your child studied incredibly hard and learned a new concept, rather than just asking them if they got an A+. We must avoid constant comparison with others. This shifts the focus away from external validation and turns the dial inward, teaching us to value continuous learning right alongside performance.
We can actually structure this through smart goal setting in 2 distinct steps. Step 1, set mastery goals. This is about personal improvement. Step 2, set outcome goals, like winning, for direction. Let's use Olympic champion Neeraj Chopra as a perfect example. Neeraj's outcome goal is incredibly clear: win the Olympic gold medal. That's the small slice of the pie that gives him direction. But his mastery goals are what he focuses on daily, perfecting the angle of his release by literally just 1 degree, improving his run-up speed, maximizing his core strength. The outcome goal tells him where to go. The mastery goals are the daily fuel that actually gets in there.
And as you pursue those mastery goals, remember that self-confidence and motivation really go hand in hand. Let's be real, you don't just magically wake up highly motivated every single day of your life. When athletes hit a wall, they rely on positive past experiences and constructive feedback from coaches to sustain their drive. This is exactly why framing failure as a learning opportunity is absolutely vital. Constructive feedback feeds your intrinsic desire to figure out the puzzle, rather than destroying your confidence.
So remember this: intrinsic and extrinsic motivation are not competitors but partners. They work together beautifully when they are balanced correctly. External rewards, the paycheck, the applause, the championship ring, they might inspire you to step out of your door and begin the journey. But when it's freezing cold outside, when you failed 3 times in a row, when you are totally exhausted, it is that intrinsic, burning love for what you do that makes you tie your shoes and step out the door for the 4th time.
Which brings us to our final and most powerful takeaway for this explainer. Whether you're an athlete, a student, an artist, or a business professional, always protect your love for the process. Because ultimately, medals may start the journey, but passion is what keeps champions moving forward. Take that passion into whatever you are doing today. It's been an absolute pleasure guiding you through the fascinating psychology of what makes a true champion. We here at Beautiful Mind believe that when you understand your own psychology, you hold the keys to unlocking your greatest potential. Understand the mind, transform your life. If you found this explainer helpful, please hit that like button for this video. I'd also love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Are you feeling more intrinsically or extrinsically motivated right now? Go ahead and share this with a friend, a teammate, or a colleague who might need a little motivation boost today. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Beautiful Mind so you never miss out on our deep dives into human psychology. And speaking of deep dives, make sure you stick around because in our next episode, we'll be exploring achievement motivation, uncovering exactly why some athletes seem to have an absolutely insatiable desire to win, even more than their equally talented peers. It's going to be a fascinating one. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep mastering your craft. See you in the next episode of Beautiful Mind. Take care.